an HR manager can do whatever they need to do. We do have a vision, and the vision is all administrative tasks should be done by less than 15 seconds.
Don't conduct your analysis in isolation because data is so incredibly powerful.
Not defending just the tribe, but defending the organization.
Those creative people that you really want to keep empowered, keep excited, keep motivated, keep thinking.
A good experience pays dividends down the line.
Stereotypes tend to break down in proximity.
Welcome to We're Only Human, a podcast about human resources, business, technology, and the workplace. My name is Ben Eubanks, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey everyone, this is Ben Eubanks, host of We're Only Human, and I'm really glad that you're here with us today. One of the things, thinking back to my time when I was working in the trenches as an HR leader, one of the things that was always a challenge was finding time to manage the paperwork, to keep all the documents, keep up with all of the things we had to track, and that got harder and harder as I worked in larger and larger companies, right? That it went from having one form for this process to having 6 forms for that process and all kinds of other fun complexities, which I'm sure most of you can identify with. So today we're going to talk to the team at Aconso and learn about how they're solving this problem for employers. We're going to talk about what are the challenges around that, what are the requirements around that, all those kind of things. So I'm so excited to have the team here with us today. Welcome to you.
Hi, thank you very much, Ben. We are also very exciting to be here.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you both. Take just a minute, each of you, Leila, if you want to go first, and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Leila Laidani. I'm actually the International Customer Success Manager at Aconso. And I'm here really to advise customers when they want to improve their employee experience. I'm actually working with customers in different industries, all around the world. To be honest, we are working with almost 65 countries, so it's very international. And we do have a lot of references like Lufthansa, Syngenta, Novartis, McDonald's, etc.
Excellent. And last but not least, why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Mehmet Zak. I live in Munich, where one of Aconso's headquarters is. So Munich, you may know it, Munich is located in the south of Germany and is the 3rd largest city after Berlin and Hamburg. You may know the city by FC Bayern Munich, which is a world famous football club, or of course by the Oktoberfest. So I am a physicist and working as technical IT consultant at Aconso. I advise our customers on various topics such as strategy, IT architecture, and many other topics. And also the setup of our software, and in this course, the connection to other HCM systems are part of my tasks. And I think during the interview, we will probably go into more detail and talk about which systems these are. I've tried to bring a few interesting examples that I've noticed in my work in recent times. And I'm happy to share my experiences with you.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to hearing some of those. Anyone who's listened to the show for more than a few episodes knows that I'm a sucker for a really good story. I love hearing about companies that are solving these problems because not just because we all love to hear the triumph over a challenge, but because we also want to know that if someone else can solve it, we can too. So there's a couple different factors there. I just love hearing some good examples. And as we go through, we'll dive into some of those. Sylvia, one of the things you said there, I actually want to ask about really quick. You mentioned some different customers and different segments there. Like you said, across different industries. Is there a certain industry that you typically work with more focused on, or is it just, hey, high volume companies or enterprise companies? I'm curious if there's a similarity among the companies you're working with across the.
Actually, it's not about the size. It's not about the industries. It's about solving problems in companies in general. And those problems are the following. So when you actually want to archive your documents or create automatically documents, this is where we are, and we can advise and provide you the right solution. So it's not about the size, it's not about the industries, it's just about having and improving the employee experience.
I love that's intriguing. You said that earlier. solving that problem, helping employers with that challenge. And again, what's interesting is we hear all the time, people talk about employee experience as this catch-all for everything that we're doing, but we talk about in terms of feedback tools and everything else, and there's no shortage of different technologies in the market that are wrapped around employee experience. But when I think about every company I've ever worked for as an employee, and every company I've worked for as an HR leader, the thing that is unanimous, that is the same across every single one of those, is having to manage, to track, to generate documents, to manage those securely, to keep track of who's completed them and who hasn't, right? Workflows around that to make sure the right signatures are coming in. So again, it's one of those things that regardless of whether you have 5 employees or, like you said, it doesn't matter what size, 50,000 employees, you're going to run into that at some point. So
Exactly.
Mehmet, I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk about this and make it practical. We've given some examples already a little bit, but talk about this. Tell me a story of a client and what kind of problems you solve for them.
Now, as Aconso offers various products for HR document management and support departments on the path of the digital transformation. And I myself, I'm involved in many different projects, but I particularly enjoy working with companies that were previously paper-based and now migrating to a digital world. Because here, the effect of change is particularly noticeable, and the joy and satisfaction of HR employees is nice to see. So what I've also observed in projects like this is that even HR employees who you would initially think are not that technologically defined are very interested in these topics and are involved right from the start. So after a short training session, for example, everyone is able to work with our personnel file. After you have the personnel file, so now you can ask yourself what happens to old files. This is a challenge. After all, you need them to work in the new system. So to get the paper documents into the new digital world, of course, they have to be first scanned. And for this, we have Aconso Services, which is specialized in professional scanning of files. And this is their daily job. And we have already successfully completed a few projects in the US. And after the documents are scanned, they are automatically uploaded to the e-file. And from then on, they are digitally available from anywhere and whenever you want. And it is very interesting to see these customers.
Excellent. So you mentioned that they're digitally available there once they've been e-filed in and they're saved. So who can access those? Obviously HR can get at this, but can we give granular access to or specific access to managers for teams or for someone who's over a region for certain documents generated in their area? I'm curious how that access piece works, because as not everything, even though we have to be the ones to ultimately track that long-term, make sure it's all done for compliance purposes, sometimes a manager needs things signed off with their own people, with their own teams, offer letters, that kind of thing. I'm curious, who else can access it besides just an HR professional? So everything in our application is controlled by roles and permissions, which, by the way, can be taken from HCM systems such as SuccessFactors or SAP HCM itself. So only selected and authorized employee can perform certain works. These roles and permissions make it easy to control who is allowed to do what. Excellent. Sorry, I had to cough there. All right, I'll fix that one. So in that course, you don't send any documents because the documents are in a secure central location. All you have to do is control access for different employees with roles and permissions, such as which employee can view which register, for example. Excellent. I'm thinking, again, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking about the problems that it solves, because in the past, I remember we had to password protect something to send it around to try to get, or we're emailing these very sensitive documents to people, and you have to double and triple check you're sending them to the right person. We had none of those kind of controls in place. So you're missing out on that, like I said, that peace of mind, that security of knowing that you're not going to inadvertently send the wrong thing to the wrong person, or you're not going to give access to the wrong person, because that's all based on the roles, especially if you're pulling it from your HR system updating the rules there would allow the right person to access that. So I'm glad that you touched on that piece of it. Leila, I'm curious, when someone starts using Aconso for the first time, what sort of things do they say? Does anything surprise them, or do they have any sort of feedback like immediately? Wow, I didn't know it could do this. Or I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, of course. So this is a pretty new technology. As you said, this is something new, and people are very surprised how easy it is to use, actually, because basically we just need to do the configuration the way any customer, any company want to. And once it's integrated and configured, it's very, very, very easy to use. So an employee can access very easily to their document. A manager can see also their document. An HR manager can do whatever they need to do, create a contract in few seconds. And by Aconso here, we do have a vision. And the vision is all administrative tasks should be done by less than 15 seconds. And this is really something that you can do when you have Aconso. You can have any kind of documents. You can create any kind of documents in less than 15 seconds.
I'm over here stunned a little bit by that, because most HR leaders would hear that and think, yes, that's a great dream. That's a great vision, but it's hard to make that a reality. And so I love that approach, and it's very concrete too. It's not just we should make this easier, but it's 15 seconds or less. That's pretty powerful as a statement there. And I'm imagining you're probably doing that for a lot of clients by enabling them to generate and track and all other things using this, versus having to through all the fun stuff, we'll just say, involved in managing and tracking and sending paper files.
Exactly.
Give me a couple of examples. We're talking about files broadly. So in my head, I'm picturing employee files, but what are 3 or 4 different types of documents or use cases where a current customer is using Aconso for these different things beyond just an employee file?
Sure, we do have different customers. So for example, we've presented last time some cases like McDonald's, Pfizer, and Billfinger. So basically, big companies are still handling their documents through paper. And of course, this is not a very good way for compliance. Here, we do have, and maybe Mehmet here is the best to provide you some concrete example about customers.
Sure.
You mean specific documents that that all customers have?
I think if I recall the McDonald's story, they were using it for offer letters, I believe. I was just curious what types of things like that. We've got employee files, we've got offer letters in order to get someone, or employment contracts, maybe that's the term I think it was used. So different things like that, different use cases. I'm trying to help the audience wrap their heads around. This isn't just about taking all your employee files and putting them on the internet. It's about all of these different places in our processes where we're using a piece of paper when we don't have to be anymore. And so I'm trying to think through some of those other applications that can help them wrap their head around that makes sense.
Yeah, you can have, for example, a proof of employment. If you need a proof of employment, I know in Europe it's documents that we need, for example, to get an apartment or to do some administrative tasks. So it's very easy for an employee, for example, to get their own proof of employment. You can, as an HR, generate a contract, as I said, very quickly, in less than 15 seconds. You can also send this contract and make it sign electronically through DocuSign, for example. You can have any kind of letter, like a bonus letter, like a confirmation that you get a salary increase. Here we are really talking about all HR documents.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. That's what I was hoping for there. I was trying to think through some of them. And I had a couple, I didn't want to make any assumptions there, but I had a couple of those in my head that I was thinking through. You could probably sit down and think through, okay, in the course of a week, I do these tasks regularly and all of them are paper-based. And if I didn't have to do that anymore on a piece of paper, how much faster would that be? How much easier would it be to route it for signature using workflows? How much easier and more secure would it be to get an e-signature on that? Again, especially in the last year where more and more companies are remote, are not there in person, are not physically there. That was one of the first thoughts that I actually had last year, not to take too much of a tangent, but one of the first thoughts I had was, what are those companies doing that have all of their employment documentation sitting in an office somewhere, locked in a file cabinet, locked in a file room, they can't access that because they're not allowed on the premises of the company anymore because of COVID, or because of health concerns. So how are they even accessing those things? And that's been sticking in my head in the last year. Is more companies, I'm hoping, are going to see this as an opportunity to get away from some of those things that tie you down to a location, that tie you down to a specific space, and allow you to be more virtual as a team, to be more scalable as a team. Like you were saying, if you can generate these things in 15 seconds or less, which is, again, that's an awesome tagline. To be able to do that enables these teams to really focus on what matters. It's not just, I'll say, I don't want to make any assumptions about the global HR audience listening to this, but I'd never got into HR because I said, you know what I really would like to do? Paperwork. I'm really excited to do some papers and sign some documents and route those for signatures. None of us got into it for that purpose. And that's one of the things we have to do as a byproduct, but it's really about how do we care for the people? How do we, as you said, Leila, build better employee experiences? How do we connect people to the business? How do we, as Mehmet was saying a minute ago, how do we make sure we're connecting the tools we're using so we're not doing double the work, double entry? Like there's so many different things we want to be doing. And on our to-do list at the top of that are completing this document, right? Routing this signature, generating this contract. And we can't get to some of those things we really want to do. So I wanted to make sure we hit that really hard because that's a vision that I have for HR. And it sounds like it's in alignment with yours, right? Trying to shorten the time it takes and enable the people that are serving the employees in their business more time to focus on those things they really need to get to.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also secure. We did have, unfortunately for the company, right, they did have some issue with their employee and they needed to go in front of the court, and they actually have used our documents, which were saved in our servers, and our documents are tamper-proof. So you can use those digitized documents to go in front of the court in case you have an issue. It would be still okay. It will be approved by the court. So it's good to know that it's also secure, because sometimes you're wondering, oh, but this is digitized. I don't know about the security. I don't know if it's really good if I get any kind of issue. But yes, this is compliant and this is tamper-proof.
Excellent. So glad you shared that one too. Is there some sort of audit trail potentially for people that are accessing the documents? You can track those things from that end if you ever had to report on that?
Yes, we do have also an audit trail. So we can track who did what, when, etc. So it's also an extra security here.
Okay, excellent. I've asked a lot of questions, and I taught more than I meant to. I think this topic brought out some passion in me because I'm having some flashbacks to the time I had to manage all of these papers and everything else. And I didn't love that. That was not a fun part of my HR workload. I'd love to hear if you have another story or another example, another customer before we wrap up here. I'd love to hear from you. If there might be another story that you can use to illustrate what this is, what sort of results someone sees, those kinds of things, because this has been a lot of fun for me.
Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic was the trigger for many companies to drive digitization forward right now. And according to our observations, the companies that were already digitally positioned had an advantage during the crisis. And for them, it was not a problem to switch, or let me say, not a big problem to switch to remote work because they were not dependent on any traditional processes or systems. So because of that, now you can develop the strategy regarding quick launches within a short period of time. We started to rethink and optimize our steps, or let me say then automate our work steps. And as a result, now you can get a standard digital file in the cloud in 5 days. So many companies have already benefited from the rapid rollout. And based on the positive feedback, we are registering a high level of customer satisfaction.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I know many of the tools that, again, the people in the audience listening to this, the tools that we have to implement from HR perspective, we're thinking months, quarters, up to a year for some of those tools, depending on the company size and complexity. And to hear that sort of capability in that short of a time is incredible. Again, it shows that ability for companies to be able to adapt and to change. We did some interesting research sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say it helped a lot that we have customers in all kinds of industries. And I would say that we understand a customer needs well and we could compare them and find a way that we could offer them this 5 days.
Yeah, the thing that popped in my head as you were saying that a minute ago is we had done some research last year in the middle of the world turned upside down, and we were asking employers about the tools that they use. And it was my hope. Right? I'm always hoping when I do some research to see something positive there. And I was hoping for 60, 70, even 80% of companies to say that their HR tools they were using would help them be more agile and responsive as a company. But when the research was done and finished, we actually found that 96% of the companies that said they were agile as an employer and they were able to respond quickly to the challenges, 96% of them said a key part of that was the HR technology, the tools you're using. And so this is a great example of that. Those companies that were able to make that transition. Hey, you know what? They're already in the cloud. We're already able to transition virtually and do that. I think that eliminated a big headache for those customers who were doing that. And also, as you said, it opened up that door, it opened up that conversation when they're talking with their peer in these, a Zoom networking session or whatever else. Hey, how did you handle that? Oh, we took care of that pretty quickly. We were able to do that in a snap because we had the tools in place. So again, I can imagine it's probably been a fun conversation for you to have in the last year and ongoing as companies are thinking about how to handle that, going remote, going virtual, and you can be a critical enabler of that transition.
Yes, exactly. We had those kind of conversation, and we also are able to prove it. We are able to provide a free trial, and it's good to explain, but it's better to see and to test themselves. So that's why we also offer a free trial. So a company basically can see how it would work if they would have a system. And I think this is the best here, is to say, okay, this is what we can do, and you can test it, and it's free, and then you can have your own opinion.
The research shows that the number one way we learn is by putting our hands on something and trying it out, even if it's a piece of software, but trying that out that way is the best way to do it. So that actually leads me to our wrap up here. If someone wants to learn more about Aconso, the work that you're doing, the customers you're serving, those kinds of things, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Of course, they can still go on our website. There are online some webinars, some videos about how you can easily create a contract and also have your documents in your digital personal. But also you can contact me and I can provide you a free trial of the solution. You can also read some case studies. We do have case study with Lufthansa, Bilfinger, where you can see the challenges and the solution we did implement and what was a return of investment.
Wonderful. Excellent. I'll make sure and get your link so people can contact you directly, Leila. I'll make sure and get the link for Aconso's website. And there are other resources in the show notes so people can follow up there, can click through and see that. So you're listening into this as the episode's live. Just click through on the show notes and you can get to all of those things that Leila just mentioned. And I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know how much fun I would have talking about documents in HR today, but I really enjoyed this. I think it's because it's a pain point that so many people have. There's not a single person that works in HR that hasn't had that frustration of dealing with something or me losing something because you're not very organized. And I love the idea of solving that problem in a really scalable way. So I appreciate both of you for joining me, for sharing your stories, your examples, the conversation today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you. We also appreciate the conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Absolutely. All right. To everybody else, I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. I hope you had some fun, as you can clearly tell that I did. Check out the links in the show notes to learn more about what Aconso and the team are up to. Keep track of your documents. And guess what? We'll talk to you next time on We're Only Human. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm honored to have you as a listener. If you enjoyed this episode, please take 10 seconds to rate it at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, if you know a friend that could benefit from today's conversation, please pass it their way. After all, a rising tide lifts all ships. To see show notes, sponsor information, and our full show archives, visit onlyhumanshow.com.